firearms, anything. And let me tell you, they take you to jail now for one glass of wine. Okay, but meanwhile, it's 5 times more likely to cause wrecks driving while texting or putting makeup on. And sure, if somebody's weaving and driving, no need to charge them with drunk driving. It's reckless driving. I see people all the time at 10 o'clock at night that are drunk, weaving down the road. Good, they need to go to jail. But you can, you see the drunk. You see it. They're reckless driving. But what? You don't need a law about texting while driving. If you get a text and look at it at a red light, that's okay. It should be the old common law, reckless driving, which is a serious charge. All you need is the old laws. They had it all figured out. And then the officer goes and testifies in court that they were sweaving and werving and doing all this. And then that they arrested him and that they did have an alcohol level. Boom, there's your probable cause right there. But checkpoints, which is just training us. This guy really knows how to educate people on the Bill of Rights and Constitution. DWI Dude.com, DWI Dude.com. And I've got to know a lot of people that read his website and his research and then don't go to jail when they've had 2 or 3 beers at the football game and, literally probably don't even have a blood alcohol level, but the cops still arrest you for driving under the influence, not even driving while intoxicated. Okay? So he joins us now to break this down. But I've got to say, Jamie, what is it like for you being a constitutional-style lawyer? I mean, just to see the wild tyranny now where they admit the NSA spying on all of us with no warrants, every count of that's a felony. I mean, what's happening? Are we becoming an authoritarian state?
We've already become that. It's gone past the turning point. It's frustrating. It's sickening to see what's going on in our society today. And what really hits me at home is that being a former Austin police officer, who I thought my job was to protect and to serve, I'm seeing that the national movement towards, stamping on the rights of the citizens is being enforced through the local constabulary. It's being enforced through the Austin Police Department, the Westlake Police Department, New Braunfels, San Marcos, your neighbors, guys you went to school with. And they're being placed in a terrible position, and the propaganda machine is also working on them. The police are now becoming, and who have we been hiring lately on these police departments? They're becoming more readily willing to do what Uncle Sam bids, although it's not the true Uncle Sam. It's the impersonator.
I should have pointed out, you have a lengthy bio, and you really are one of the leading experts on DWI in the country, and you've been recognized as such that you were previously a police officer. That's why you know all the tricks, and now it's just been set with precedent on the street where, the cops pull me over, and they even know who I am, and they go, mind if I search the car? And I'm like, of course I mind. What's that you're drinking? It'll be a Topo Chico mineral water. And I go, beer bottles don't look like that. Well, you mind showing it to me? And I'm like, no, what is your emergency? But I mean, describe your time as a police officer and how you've seen things transform and why you went and got a law degree and have now become a preeminent expert on DWIs.
When I first joined the Austin Police Department back in 1979, we were known as a really lenient department. We weren't out there trying to get numbers and bust people. If we talked about DWI cases, unless you were drunk and dangerous or had caused a collision or were completely out of control, you didn't go to jail. We called you a cab. If you lived close by, we had districts where we worked. We'd take you home. We might throw your keys out in the grass because what we wanted to do was make sure that nobody got hurt. Now they're trying to make their numbers, and there are numbers. A lot of the DWI enforcement in Texas is done under the federal STEP program. Now, when I worked the STEP program back in the 87, 88, it would come up on a rotational basis. You put your name in the pile, and then they would, pick your name as it came up. But if you didn't make an arrest on tonight's assignment, the next time your name came up, you got passed. That's a bounty. There's no other way to look at it. It's a requirement to make an arrest. And I guarantee you, when you wanted that overtime for child support or your boat payment or maybe for your beer money, you made an arrest. Now it's gotten so much further, it's frightening. I just got back from Del Rio, a DWI trial in a .11 breath case, got a not guilty. but I had a great judge and actually a very ethical and good prosecutor. The DPS trooper, fortunately, we had a videotape. In San Antonio, you usually don't. But the police report had absolute lies in it. He was lying on this 3-tour Iraqi veteran. And it was just, we had to win this case to save his military retirement. The police officer, DPS trooper, lied. He lied on the stand. I've never done this before, but I'm going to get a copy of the traffic stop. I'm going to get a copy of the offense report. I'm going to file a complaint with DPS Internal Affairs, and I'm going to ask them to pull his testimony from, sworn testimony and take appropriate action.
I agree. You want to come up to our TV studio, we could show all that and show the footage and do a whole news report on it and show the lying.
If I can get permission from my hero, we'll do just that, and he's very likely to agree. It just saddens me to see that if he'll do that on videotape against a lawyer, of my quality and on DWI representation, after taking the oath at the court, what else would he do?
Absolutely. Stay there. We're going to be right back on the other side with our guest. Wow. The website, you got to check it out. He's a great lawyer. DWIDude.com. People love it when we're having these star lawyers on. We're going to start having on one at least a week. DWIDude.com. The worst drought in 50 years continues. And the first 6... Jamie Balagia, former Austin police officer, become lawyer, defending the Bill of Rights and Constitution on a host of issues, but centering in and around DWIs. And I have been pulled over multiple times, even in broad daylight when I've had nothing to drink. And they ask me if I'm drinking. And I'm just like, man, okay. But what's crazy is then they're nice and let me go and don't give me a ticket for speeding 5 miles over the speed limit. The point is, the cops themselves aren't even bad people. The policy is bad, and they're pushing this mothered against drunk driving thing that they use as a pretext to take over society. And I could tell that the lawyer was agreeing with me that the point is, somebody's reckless driving, throw the book at them. But somebody has 2 glasses of wine, and the CPS comes, and the kids are taken, and the mom is taken, and tens of thousands of dollars. It's a big money maker. I mean, if we're really going to make it this big a crime, then they have to ban alcohol and ban bars. I mean, it's an oxymoron. Here, just have bars everywhere. Have bars everywhere, and then if you have more than 2 drinks or even 1.5 drinks, you're going to jail. I'm ranting, Jamie. Continue with your awakening and then go through people's rights. We got a long segment coming up. This is a short one, but please continue because this is such a scourge nationwide.
I took that rant a step further Monday during my voir dire or jury selection process. I talked about what's that flat black surface made of asphalt with stripes on it at every bar and every restaurant we see that serves alcohol. If they don't, I mean, people are going to drink with a meal. People are going to drink and have a good time. Just your body gets rid of about 1 drink per hour, that depending on the person. But if someone says, well, I had 4 beers, they're going to jail. But if they had 4 beers over a 3-hour period, they've got 1 beer in them. They aren't in any way impaired. And I can't believe I'm using that term because in these courtrooms, you hear the prosecutors and the police officers start saying, well, he was impaired. He was buzzed. And I'll start objecting. And a lot of times I let them put out a whole lot of rope so I can hang them because inch by inch, it's what you were talking about a moment ago. Inch by inch, they are taking away our rights through these do-good programs of let's get the drunk drivers off the roads that are killing our kids. Well, what you're doing is you're getting everybody off the road. You're giving everybody a criminal history. You're not only arresting for 1 charge, you're arresting for every charge you can come up with. And it gets very frustrating on my end because to be able to beat a DWI charge in the courtroom, I have got to be the best and smartest lawyer in that room. I have to know more than the judge, the cops, the prosecutors, the state's expert witnesses. Cost a ton of money for me to do that for myself and my staff and associates. And of course, that gets passed on to the client. My client in Del Rio, we got out of a DWI charge with a not guilty finding. The judge was good enough not to just dismiss the case. He found him not guilty. That man paid $10,000 to clear his name when the police officer invented the charge, basically. And there's no grounds for a lawsuit. If we sued the police officer, the DPS trooper, we'd lose more money. And I just feel horrible for people, but I can't do the job I need to do without being adequately prepared. Really appreciate you bringing this issue out to your viewers, because nobody thinks they're going to get a DWI until they're getting locked up.
And it's a complete scourge. And like you said, you can be at a meeting with 10 people and go, how many of you have a DWI? And half of them raise their hands. I mean, this is getting ridiculous, where I don't even want to have a party at my house and have friends over. I feel like I'm going to send them off to be arrested if we're having barbecue and drink 4 or 5 beers over 3 hours. Nobody's even got a, quote, buzz, especially men that weigh, 250 pounds like I do. I mean, I'm sorry, beer doesn't even do anything to me. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke.
You can't go out and have an Italian meal without having a little wine and not be worried about getting arrested. Generally, the husband or the wife or one of the people in the date is the designated driver. And when do they come up with this, a designated driver? That program, I believe, encourages the non-drivers to get hammered, and that's directed at young people. So we've got our college kids and people in their early 20s who are being told, well, if you're going to go out and drink, let somebody else drive so you can get completely wasted. So they start developing that habit. I see the downside of the designated driver program. What
about the statistics? I want to come back and talk about this, and then talk most importantly about what you teach people, how to deal with this, so that even if you do, go to jail, you're not going to beat the ride, but you will beat the rap. I want to understand that, because you really are one of the most successful lawyers out there using the Constitution to defeat this. But first, I want to talk about the statistics I've seen. In fact, we'll even pull some of these up. 5 times more likely to cause a fatality texting. Why don't we have a big freak out about that? We'll be right back with our guest. Stay with us. Jamie Balagia, attorney at law, is our guest. His amazing website is DWIDude.com. And I'm going to tell you, before I go any further, he's a former Austin police officer. Finish your story, how you woke up, why you got involved, and then, get up to that next point of what's happening in this country and the rights that people need to know, what they need to understand.
In 1990, I started looking around at what was happening at the police department, and I was working a lot of weekends on 6th Street doing overtime assignments, and it got to be where we were just like a bunch of robots herding the cattle. We would put up the barricades, tell people they could only walk one way. They couldn't. A 25-year-old man couldn't carry a beer in his hand and walk down a public sidewalk. I then began to see the first creepings of the control that was starting to take place of our citizens. I didn't like it. I thought about where my dreams had been earlier in life, and I wanted to be a lawyer. And I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer always, because we're the only ones that are fighting for the Constitution. We're the only ones that walk into court every day, and we fight battles over search warrants, over invalid traffic stops, lying cops. They're out there. My family's law enforcement, but we didn't play the game that way. If we couldn't get you the right way, we'd get you the next time. But we didn't play this game of planting evidence, lying, tricking you. The Supreme Court has said that police officers can lie to you as an investigative tool. I was told to tell the truth when I was